moving on into the next story, this is another one that people wanted us to talk about because we have gotten into the dangers of crunch time and all that, and unfortunately it looks like Cyberpunk 2077 developer CD Projekt Red is going to be breaking the promise that they made a while back, I want to say back in 2019, where they said that they would not be implementing crunch time to get Cyberpunk out. They instead are going to be doing it in these last few months before the November 19th release date, which has gained a certain level of backfire to them because they did make that promise. I'm going to be honest in my regard here, and I'll let you guys get your opinions first, but I'm kind of not mad at CD Projekt Red at this point. The reason I'm mad at EA and all of the companies that have done it is because they have done it. They've done crunch time consistently for months. We're talking 4, 5, 6 months, even a year in some cases of consistent crunch, and that does wear away. And if it's, I have heard of companies who do crunch time like for updates to banking programs and things like that, but they only do it for like 3 weeks to a month because they're trying to get it out by the end of the year, so that everything's updated and they honor their contracts. And after talking to a few programmer buddies, it is acceptable to be able to do that. It's just unacceptable, especially in the gaming industry, when you're doing it for 1, 2, 3, 4, even 10 or 11 months straight, kind of thing, just to get this game out. And so I'm not necessarily, I don't know whether or not to say they broke their promise, but I don't know if I'm mad at CD Projekt Red for this either. Romney, where are you at with it?
Well, looking at a lot of the statements that Adam Badowski, the head of CD Projekt Red, has explained, is that he has basically said, hey, at this point, like, it's looking like we might need it because we are in the home stretch. He even make it clear that, hey, our company doesn't make it mandatory. People can say no.
Oh, okay. That was one. I'm glad that you found that, because all the articles that I looked into this, I couldn't get a solid answer on whether or not people could vouch out for it. And we know that now. They can bow out.
Supposedly.
Supposedly.
I mean, a lot of the times it's like, it's optional in major air quotes, but you'll be kind of chastised if you don't commit to it.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
One thing that I can say to their credit, at least they're trying to kind of be reasonable about it, where they're saying, okay, it's only going to be a 6-day work week. So at least they're trying to at least make sure, hey, we're at least giving you 1 day a week off to, just to mitigate it. And again, it's one of those issues in the gaming industry that it is really, really hard to plan for. Yeah. Especially when you're trying to release a game, you have to have it ready by a certain time to go to the company that prints the discs, and then.
Well, and on top of that, the other thing that we have to consider here is, correct me if I'm wrong, Romney, this game has gotten 3 delays at this point? 3?
Yep, it was initially, according to the Verge article we're going off of, which links to the Bloomberg article, it was supposed to launch back in April, but then it got pushed to September, and then it got pushed again to November 19th.
Yeah, and so I don't know. I'm not mad at CD Projekt Red. I think they've kind of, I mean, I know that they don't like the idea that they're doing 6 work days a week, but I mean, if they've made it optional and it's not 7 days a week, they're allowing for a day where these people can go home and crash. I'm not, like, I don't like crunch, but I understand that it's a necessity in these small sessions like this. I get where that's necessary.
And especially considering that the other key factor here is that CD Projekt Red, since they're based in Poland, they have to abide by Polish labor laws. And so another key factor is that the 1 day, looking at the Bloomberg article that The Verge links to, apparently the key thing is that the 1 day a week off, that's required by Polish labor laws.
Yeah.
And they've also explained in the email that was released, and it was an anonymous employee at CD Projekt Red who basically passed this email along to Jason Schreier, who wrote the article on Bloomberg, basically explaining, hey, yeah, this is what's going on. We're basically being expected to work 6 days a week. The exact same is saying starting today, the entire studio is in overdrive. But per Polish labor laws, the extra amount of work they're putting in, which would classify as overtime, is being paid for, whereas a lot of the other studios, like EA, don't pay for overtime. And again, that's specifically because of Polish labor laws. And even Badowski even goes on to say, like, I take it upon myself to receive the full backlash for this decision. I know this is in direct opposition to what we said about crunch. It's also in direct opposition to what I personally grew to believe a while back, that it should never be the answer. But we've extended all other possible means of navigating the situation, which
Yeah.
I kind of get. They've delayed the game multiple times. They're trying to get it to a polished state so that way they're not pulling a Bethesda and releasing a buggy mess.
But yeah,
with crunch.
Let's make this let's make an actual comparison here, okay? So as Romney has said, they've taken every avenue to try and avoid this. Bethesda with Fallout 76 immediately went into crunch. They didn't even consider other options at this point. Okay? EA when they were instituting crunch, or Gearbox when they were instituting crunch for Borderlands 3, instantly into crunch. Maybe accepting like one option, but they just went right into crunch and stayed there for months at a time. And that's why, like, I know that some people are going to blow back at me and say, like, why you're such a hypocrite because you've spoken out against it, but now you don't care here. I do care, but I understand why this is necessary. They've gone every other avenue, and they're a month away from their release. They really want to make sure that they don't have to delay again. So I'm not mad.
Especially this year with the way the pandemic has affected the games industry as a whole. Yeah, there's been a huge boost, but it's affected the ship dates of a lot of games and a lot of the various editions, and it's even affected things on the digital front. And so, given how much CD Projekt Red has invested in Cyberpunk 2077, and that's not even accounting for how much they had to pay Keanu Reeves, which granted, yeah, Keanu is probably humble enough to not, ask for millions upon billions of dollars, but even still, hiring Keanu Reeves is not cheap. It's one of those cases where, hey, we need to start getting this out there and selling if we want to stay afloat. And that's sadly, there's no easy way to address the issue of crunch in the games industry. I mean, you can try to mitigate it as best you can with pre-production. You can try to mitigate it with delays. But it's one of those things where it's kind of hard to avoid, because even the most meticulous of planners, I mean, the classic quote says, the best laid plans of mice and men often go awry. Sometimes there are things you can't account for. In the case of, 2020, there was the whole global pandemic causing an issue with a lot of other factors. So it's one of those cases where it sucks, but at least Badowski is at least acknowledging, hey, yeah, I know this is gonna, bite us in the butt. I take full responsibility because I know this sucks, even though we said we wouldn't. At least he's actually showing the awareness of, hey, yeah, I know this is what I said in the past. They're not trying to deny it. They're not trying to hide it. It's a case of, hey, yeah, this is a thing that's happening. I accept full responsibility for this. We know it's going to suck. And so at least there, CD Projekt Red tried the best they could, and at least are acknowledging how bad the fact they're having to use crunch is. That's leagues apart from what companies like EA and Bethesda do, where they try to hide the fact that crunch is even a thing. Whereas here, granted, it was still an internal email. EA at least was upfront with his employees saying, hey, yeah, I know this contradicts everything I said, but we're in the home stretch. This is the way it is.
Alex, where are you at with what we're talking about? Like, am I out of the realm of possibility here? Like, am I talking crazy talk, or does any of the, like, are we resonating with you, or do you still think it's a bad idea?
Yeah, I think you are kind of resonating with me here. Plus, I did just barely find this, that they've already spent 121 million on this, and which still makes me question why the hell they're going to still charge you $60 for this game and expect to make money. But really, guys, I don't know how they're going to possibly keep games at $60 next gen, but that's a really discussion we need to have sometime. I really want to have that.
Well,
so,
I mean, one way they're doing it is you've got all those fancy editions with all the extra bells and whistles. A lot more companies have been doing that now as a way of raking in extra money, especially when you factor in a lot of the early adopters who like to buy it day one, who like to buy all the exclusive extra swag. Well, that's not a perfect answer. That is probably what the trend we're going to see is that we're going to probably see an increase in more special editions, limited editions. I mean, the Final Fantasy VII Remake had like 3 different special editions that you could buy. I wouldn't be surprised if next gen you have like, Super Deluxe Edition, Legendary Edition, Ultimate Super Mega Hyper Edition that comes with 3 coffee mugs.
Yeah, something like that. But it's one of those things where I do kind of understand why they're instituting this, and I'm not as mad at CD Projekt Red. I think that they've done as much as they possibly can to be able to make that work out. And when it comes out November 19th, we'll see whether or not it's worthwhile. we'll have to wait until then. Until then, I'm not mad. I'm not mad at them. I think that they've done everything that they possibly can, and there's definitely a huge difference between this as well as compared to Borderlands 3 or any other game which used an insane amount of crunch time. I mean, for crying out loud, the way that I can kind of resonate with this, because I wasn't really looking to buy Cyberpunk. I'm not a CD Projekt Red fan. I've maybe played a demo of The Witcher and a couple of other things in that, but I wouldn't consider myself a CD Projekt Red fan. But Blizzard Entertainment also instituted a bit of a delay this week when they announced that World of Warcraft Shadowlands is going to be delayed. Doesn't have a release date. They're hoping to get it out by the end of 2020. But because of the way that things are going, basically half of the game is done, and then the end game portion of it, which is basically the other half, is an absolute mess. And because of the pandemic, they haven't been able to give their 100% to it, and so they delayed things. They will give a good portion of the game out, or they'll release a good portion of the game in about 2 weeks, and that'll give something for people to do. But at the same time, they are also going to be delaying the game and working on this. So I totally understand that. And even then, they're trying the World of Warcraft team is trying very, very hard to not institute any kind of crunch on their employees. So I'll at least give them that. But with that being said, I don't